Through the thick fog of Hyannis, 6 hulking German shepherds march like shadows of war, their unleashed power bowing to a tiny figure, a 6-year-old girl with hollow eyes and blood-streaked hands. What secret drives her to command these beasts, and why does one bear a scar from a hunter's arrow that nearly claimed her life? Is she a prodigy born of tragedy, or a danger hiding in plain sight? Hit that subscribe button and help us reach our first 1,000 subscribers to uncover the truth behind this heart-wrenching mystery. The fog draped Hyannis, Massachusetts like a heavy shroud on that chilly March morning in 2025, cloaking Main Street in an eerie stillness. Out of the mist, they emerged, 6 massive German shepherds, their muscular frames cutting through the haze with a precision that seemed almost unnatural. Their paws struck the pavement in unison, a rhythmic thud that echoed through the sleepy coastal town. No leashes bound them, no collars restrained their raw power. They moved like a military unit, dark eyes fixed forward, alert and unyielding. A small crowd gathered near the hardware store, their whispers rising as they craned their necks to catch a glimpse of the figure commanding this formidable pack. Was it a seasoned trainer? A police officer with years of canine experience? The answer, when it came, hit them like a thunderclap. A tiny girl, no more than 6 years old, stepped into view. Lily Harper's delicate frame seemed swallowed by the towering dogs surrounding her. Her pale face was framed by a mop of tangled brown hair, and her hazel eyes stared blankly ahead, devoid of the spark you'd expect from a child her age. Her small hands trembled slightly as she raised them, issuing commands so subtle, a flick of a finger, a tilt of her wrist, that the dogs responded as if tethered to her soul. The German shepherds halted in perfect formation, their massive bodies forming a protective ring around her, and the onlookers gasped in unison. "That's impossible," muttered Frank Delaney, the hardware store owner, clutching his coffee mug as he watched from his storefront. "No kid that age can control beasts like that." But not everyone was awestruck. Grace Mitchell, a retired elementary school principal with a stern face and a reputation for upholding order, stood at the edge of the crowd, her arms crossed tightly over her wool coat. Her gray eyes narrowed as she studied Lily and her dogs, her lips pressing into a thin line. "Something's not right about this," she said, loud enough for those nearby to turn their heads. "No child could manage those monsters naturally. Mark my words, there's something wrong, dangerously wrong, going on in that house." Her voice carried the weight of decades spent policing schoolyards, and her words planted a seed of doubt that rippled through the gathering. The spectacle was unlike anything Hyannis had ever seen. By the 3rd week of Lily's morning walks, she'd become a local phenomenon. Shopkeepers set their clocks by her appearances, and tourists whipped out their phones to capture the improbable procession. Videos circulated online showing the 6 German shepherds weaving through downtown with military precision. Titan, the largest at nearly 100 pounds, always taking point, his black and tan coat gleaming even in the fog. Lily, barely visible among the sea of fur and muscle, walked with a quiet determination, her red sneakers peeking out beneath the forest of canine legs. Most clips ended with strangers clapping or murmuring in amazement, but one video, uploaded by a curious bystander, changed everything. In the shaky footage, a delivery truck rumbled down Main Street, its engine roaring as it passed too close to Lily's pack. Without warning, Titan's ears flattened, and a low growl rumbled from his throat. He lunged forward, teeth bared, his massive body surging toward the vehicle as if it were a threat to be neutralized. The crowd scattered, some screaming, until Lily's voice pierced the chaos. A single desperate cry, "Stop!" Her voice cracked with fear, raw and unfiltered, the first time anyone had heard her speak in public. Titan froze mid-stride, his muscles quivering as he obeyed, returning to her side with a reluctant huff. The video cut off there, but it spread like wildfire, racking up thousands of views and comments. "That dog's a ticking time bomb. She's incredible. How does she do it?" Grace Mitchell seized on the incident like a hawk spotting prey. "This isn't a talent," she declared to a cluster of neighbors outside the bakery the next morning, holding her phone aloft with the video paused on Titan's snarling face. "It's a disaster waiting to happen. Those dogs will kill someone if that little girl loses control. And she will. She's too young, too fragile." Her words gained traction, especially when a chilling discovery fueled the growing unease. Margaret Wilson, a nervous dog owner who'd always avoided Lily's route, stumbled upon a torn collar half buried in the dirt near the Harper family's weathered Cape Cod house on Pine Street. It was old, frayed at the edges and stained with what looked like dried blood, dark and crusted. She snapped a photo and posted it to the Hyannis community Facebook group with a caption, "Found this near the dog girl's house. What's really going on there?" The post exploded, comments piling up within hours. Some speculated it belonged to a stray the dogs had attacked. Others whispered it might be human blood, tied to some unspeakable secret. The police dismissed it as inconclusive. "Could be from a raccoon or a deer," Officer Daniel Connolly said with a shrug. But the damage was done. Grace wasted no time clutching the photo like evidence in a courtroom. "This is proof," she told anyone who'd listen. "That child and those animals are a menace. We can't wait for a tragedy to act." Lily Harper, oblivious to the storm brewing around her, continued her silent marches through town, her dogs trailing her like shadows. She didn't smile at the tourists snapping pictures or nod at the shopkeepers who'd begun leaving water bowls outside their doors. Her world seemed confined to the 6 German shepherds, their loyalty an unspoken pact that no one outside her small circle could penetrate. But Grace's words lingered in the air, a dark prophecy that refused to fade. What was Lily hiding? Why did Titan react to that truck with such fury? And whose blood stained that collar? The truth, as Hyannis would soon discover, was far more shocking than anyone could have imagined. Lily wasn't just a girl with a knack for dogs. She was bound to them by a vow forged in blood, a promise made in the ashes of a tragedy that had shattered her life. It was a secret so explosive, so unthinkable, that it would tear the town apart and force every resident to confront their deepest fears. "Leave a like if you're as curious as I am," the narrator's voice chimed in, breaking the tension with a YouTube flourish. "And tell me in the comments, is Lily a prodigy or a danger? What's your guess about that bloody collar? Let's dive deeper into this mystery because what's coming next will leave you speechless." Lily Harper wasn't always the silent girl who walked Hyannis with an army of German shepherds at her heels. Before the fog of grief descended, she was a bright spark in a home filled with barking chaos and boundless love. Her parents, Jack and Nora Harper, were legends in New England's dog training circles. Their reputation built on turning feral strays into loyal partners for police departments across Massachusetts. Their weathered Cape Cod house on Pine Street wasn't just a home. It was a sanctuary where dogs roamed free, tails wagging like metronomes to the rhythm of a family that lived and breathed canine companionship. Lily, born into this world in 2019, was their pride and joy, a tiny prodigy who seemed to inherit their gift before she could even tie her own shoes. At just 3 years old, Lily stunned her parents when she toddled over to a snarling rescue dog, a scarred brute Jack had nicknamed Razor, and placed her chubby hand on its trembling muzzle. The growls faded to whimpers, and Razor lay down at her feet, his fierce eyes softening as if she'd cast a spell. "She's got it," Nora whispered to Jack that night, her voice thick with awe. "She speaks their language." They nurtured her talent, teaching her the subtle cues, hand signals, soft whistles, that turned chaos into order. But that joyful chaos shattered on a rain-soaked October evening in 2021 when a pickup truck barreled through a red light on Route 28, slamming into the Harper family's station wagon with a force that turned metal into ash. Lily, strapped in the back seat, watched in helpless horror as the world exploded around her, the screech of tires, the crunch of steel, the screams of her parents, all drowned out by the roar of flames licking at the wreckage. Jack and Nora were gone in an instant, pinned and crushed, their lives snuffed out before help could arrive. But Lily wasn't alone. Titan, the largest of their 6 German shepherds, had been riding in the cargo area. With a strength born of desperation, he clawed through the twisted metal, his paws bloodied, and dragged Lily from the burning car just as the gas tank erupted. She stumbled onto the wet asphalt, coughing and trembling, her small body smeared with soot and blood, some hers, some Titan's. In that moment of raw survival, something broke inside her, and something else was forged. Kneeling beside Titan in the pouring rain, Lily pulled a shard of glass from the wreckage and sliced her palm, letting crimson drops fall onto the dog's matted fur. "We'll protect each other," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the storm. "Even if we have to die." It was a vow sealed in blood, a pact between a broken child and the only family she had left. From that night on, Lily stopped speaking to humans, retreating into a world where only her 6 dogs, Titan, Luna, Rex, Shadow, Bella, and Duke, could hear her whispers. Doctors called it selective mutism, a trauma response to the nightmare she'd endured. But to Lily, it was a shield, a way to keep the pain at bay and honor the promise she'd made. Now, at 6 years old, she lived with her grandparents, Henry and Clara Harper, in the same Pine Street house where her parents' legacy lingered. Henry, 76, battled a worsening heart condition, his hands trembling as he tried to keep up with the energetic pack. Clara, 74, fought crippling arthritis, her joints too stiff to manage the dog's daily needs, their fixed income strained under the weight of feeding 6 massive German shepherds and paying for Lily's therapy sessions, which yielded little beyond blank stares and silence. Yet they refused to part with the dogs, knowing they were Lily's lifeline, the last thread tying her to Jack and Nora. She'd waste away without them, Clara told Henry one night, her voice cracking. They're all she has left. Lily took it upon herself to keep the pack disciplined, studying her parents' training journals late into the night by flashlight. The attic became her refuge, where she pored over pages of commands and notes, adapting them with her own innovations, tiny hand gestures suited to her small frame. Each morning she led the dogs through Hyannis, their obedience a testament to her skill and their unspoken bond. But that bond faced its first real test in a moment no one saw coming, a crack in the facade that would ignite the town's growing unease. Joe Carter, the tattooed owner of Carter's Waterfront Grill, had installed security cameras as part of a harbor revitalization project, their lenses capturing snippets of Lily's daily route. One night, reviewing footage after a slow shift, he stumbled on something chilling. The timestamp read 2:17 a.m., long before Lily's usual walks. In the grainy black and white video, she knelt in an alley behind the grill, her small figure hunched over Titan. The dog's front leg was mangled, blood seeping from a gash that looked fresh and deep. Lily's hands moved frantically, wrapping a torn strip of her shirt around the wound as she whispered, "You can't die. I need you." Her voice, faint but piercing, carried a desperation that made Joe's stomach turn. The footage cut off as she led Titan away, limping but alive. Joe showed the clip to a few regulars the next day, his voice low. She was out there alone in the dark, fixing that dog like her life depended on it. What the hell happened to him? Word spread fast, and by evening Hyannis was buzzing with theories. Grace Mitchell pounced on the discovery, her eyes gleaming with vindication. "This proves it," she said at an impromptu gathering outside the coffee shop, holding up her phone with a still from Joe's video. "That child's tangled up in something dangerous. Did those dogs attack something or someone to get that injury? Is she covering for them?" Others saw it differently. "She's protecting him," Joe countered, rolling up his sleeves to reveal his own scars from a rough life. "That's love, not danger." The truth, as the footage hinted, was more heartbreaking than either side imagined. Weeks earlier, Lily had been crossing a quiet street when a delivery truck veered too close, its driver distracted by a phone call. Titan lunged, shoving Lily out of harm's way, but took the brunt of the impact, a glancing blow that tore his leg open. She'd hidden the incident, fearing her grandparents' fragile health couldn't handle the stress, and nursed him in secret. But the video shattered her silence, thrusting her into a spotlight she couldn't escape. Lily's vow wasn't just about survival. The narrator's voice broke in, smooth and urgent. It was a clue, a thread leading back to the night that broke her world. What did Titan save her from that no one else knows? Hit that like button if you're hooked, and drop your theories below. Is Lily a hero or a ticking time bomb? Because what's coming next will turn this town upside down. By late spring 2025, Lily Harper and her 6 German Shepherds had become more than a curiosity in Hyannis. They were a lightning rod. The viral video of Titan lunging at a truck, followed by Joe Carter's haunting footage of Lily bandaging the dog's leg in the dead of night, had split the town into factions. Some saw her as a fragile child bound to her dogs by love and loss. Others, led by Grace Mitchell, painted her as a danger, a ticking bomb cloaked in innocence. Whispers about the bloody collar and Titan's injury fueled a growing unease, but no one could have predicted how fast the storm would break, or how dark it would get. The tipping point came when a regional journalist, Tom Bradley, dug into the Harper family's past for a feature piece. Sifting through police reports from the 2021 crash that killed Jack and Nora Harper, he uncovered a detail buried in the chaos: a charred scrap of paper clutched in Nora's lifeless hand. The ink was smeared, but the words were legible. "If we die, let Lily keep the dogs. They know what we can't say." Bradley's article hit the internet like a grenade. Titled, "The Dog Girl's Secret, A Message from Beyond," within hours it was trending nationwide. Hashtags like Hyannis a Mystery and Dog Whisper Child Flooding X. Cable news picked it up, pundits speculating wildly. Was Lily fulfilling a mission from her parents? Did the dogs hold a secret tied to the crash? Theories ranged from the sentimental, "they're her guardians," to the sinister, "she's trained them to hunt whoever killed her family." The media frenzy turned Hyannis into a circus. Reporters camped outside the Harper's Pine Street home, their cameras trained on the peeling blue door as if it might spill its secrets. Tourists flocked to Main Street, hoping to catch Lily's morning procession, while locals debated her story over coffee at Cape Cod Coffee. Grace Mitchell seized the spotlight, her voice sharp on a local news segment. "That note proves nothing except negligence. Those dogs are a threat, and this child's being exploited by her own trauma." But Joe Carter fired back in an interview of his own, his gruff tone cutting through the noise. "You don't know her. She's not a monster. She's a kid who's lost everything. Those dogs are her family." Mid the chaos, a second escalation erupted, one that plunged Lily's fragile world into outright peril. On a stormy Tuesday night in April, with thunder rattling the windows of Hyannis, Lily and her 6 German Shepherds vanished. Henry Harper woke at 3 a.m. to an eerie silence. No rhythmic panting, no soft whines from the living room where the dogs slept. He shuffled to the porch, his heart pounding, and froze. A smear of fresh blood glistened on the steps, stark against the weathered wood. Clara joined him, her arthritis-swollen hands clutching his arm as she gasped, "Where's Lily?" They called the police, their voices trembling over the line, and within an hour, Hyannis was ablaze with panic. Officer Daniel Connolly led the search, his flashlight slicing through the rain as volunteers combed the streets. Social media exploded with speculation. The dogs turned on her. "Look at that blood. She's run off with them. She's scared." Grace Mitchell, ever the opportunist, stood under an umbrella at the town square, telling a reporter, "This is what I warned you about. Those animals are out of control and now she's gone." Or worse, but at dawn, a breakthrough came. A hiker found Lily deep in the woods near Barnstable, her small body curled against Titan, who lay beside her, blood oozing from a hunting arrow lodged in his shoulder. The other 5 dogs formed a protective circle around them, their growls warning off anyone who dared approach too close. Paramedics rushed Titan to a vet, while Lily, soaked and shivering, was taken to Cape Cod Hospital. She wouldn't speak, her blank eyes fixed on the stretcher carrying her wounded companion. The arrow, a sleek carbon fiber shaft with green fletching, baffled investigators. "This isn't a kid's toy," Connolly told Henry and Clara at the station, his brow furrowed. "It's a professional-grade hunting arrow. Someone shot it with intent." The blood on the porch matched Titan's, suggesting he'd been hit there before Lily fled with him into the night. But who fired the shot? A poacher? A vigilante inspired by Grace's crusade? Or something more sinister tied to that cryptic note from Nora? The incident forced authorities to act. Mayor Lisa Donovan, caught between public pressure and her own doubts, called an emergency meeting with the police chief, child welfare services, and animal control. "We can't ignore this," she said, sweat beading on her forehead despite the cool room. "A child's missing, a dog's been shot, something's wrong here." By noon, a formal investigation launched, with caseworker Rachel Evans assigned to assess Lily's safety and Officer Conley tasked with tracing the arrow's origin. Grace wasted no time, rallying her concerned citizens group at her Victorian home on Elm Street. "This is no accident," she declared, her voice rising over the clink of coffee cups. "Those dogs drew blood. Maybe Lily's next. We need them gone." But not everyone bought her narrative. Dr. Nathan Brooks, a local veterinarian who'd treated the Harper's dogs for years, examined Titan's wound and offered a different take. "He took that arrow protecting her," he told Connolly, adjusting his wire-rimmed glasses. "The angle suggests he leapt in front of something, or someone, aiming at Lily. These aren't feral beasts. They're trained to guard her." His words echoed Joe Carter's earlier defense. Splitting the town further, online petitions sprang up, one demanding the dogs be seized, another begging to let Lily keep her family. The Hyannis Oracle ran dueling editorials, one calling for safety, the other championing Lily's bond with her pack. Lily, released from the hospital with no injuries beyond exhaustion, sat silently on her grandparents' couch, her red sneakers dangling above the floor. Clara wrapped her in a blanket, tears streaming down her weathered cheeks. "She won't tell us what happened," she whispered to Henry, who clutched his chest, his heart medication barely keeping pace with the stress. But she kept saying Titan's name over and over. The dogs, minus their wounded leader, pressed close to Lily, their whines filling the room with an unspoken grief. "That arrow wasn't random," the narrator's voice cut in, low and urgent. "It was a warning or a failed strike." What did Lily see that night? What secret are those dogs guarding that someone's desperate to bury? Hit that like button if you're on edge and tell me in the comments, who shot Titan? Is Grace right to fear the dogs, or is there a bigger threat out there? Because the next twist will shake this town to its core. The Barnstable County Courthouse buzzed with tension on a humid June morning in 2025, its wooden benches packed beyond capacity. The emergency hearing over Lily Harper and her 6 German shepherds had drawn a crowd, reporters, townsfolk, even national news crews, each eager to witness the showdown that had consumed Hyannis. Grace Mitchell sat at the petitioner's table, her gray hair pulled into a tight bun, her stern face radiating certainty as she prepared to argue for the removal of Lily's dogs. Across the aisle, Henry and Clara Harper flanked their granddaughter, their frail hands trembling with worry. Lily, small and silent, stared at her lap, her red sneakers swinging beneath the table. The dogs, including a recovering Titan, were kenneled at home under supervision, but their absence only heightened the stakes. Judge Helen Carter, a no-nonsense veteran of family law, banged her gavel, silencing the murmurs. "We're here to determine the welfare of Lily Harper and the safety of this community," she announced, her voice cutting through the room like a blade. Grace's attorney, a sharp-suited woman from Boston, opened with a barrage of evidence. The viral video of Titan lunging at a truck, the bloody collar, the arrow in Titan's shoulder. "This child is in over her head," she argued, her tone icy. 6 untrained German shepherds, one already injured in a violent incident, pose an imminent threat. We demand their immediate removal for Lily's protection and the town's safety." Grace nodded approvingly, her eyes fixed on Lily as if daring her to react. Henry and Clara's pro bono lawyer, James Riley, countered with a softer approach. "These dogs are Lily's lifeline," he said, gesturing to the frail girl between her grandparents. "They've kept her grounded since her parents' tragic death." Dr. Nathan Brooks will testify to their protective nature. The veterinarian took the stand, his wire-rimmed glasses slipping as he described Titan's arrow wound. "That dog didn't attack. He shielded her," Brooks insisted. "The arrow's trajectory proves it was aimed at Lily. These animals aren't the danger. Someone out there is." His words stirred the gallery, but Grace's attorney scoffed. "Speculation, Your Honor. Where's the proof of this phantom shooter?" The hearing stretched into its third hour, a tug-of-war of testimony and emotion. Caseworker Rachel Evans presented a neutral report, noting Lily's selective mutism and deep bond with the dogs, but flagged the recent incident as concerning. Officer Daniel Conley testified about the arrow, admitting its origin remained unknown. "Could have been a hunter, could have been deliberate, we're still investigating," he said, his weathered face tight with frustration. Grace took the stand last, her voice ringing with authority. "I've spent decades protecting children," she began, clutching a folder of news clippings about dog attacks. "Lily's trauma has blinded her to the risk. We can't wait for blood to spill before we act." Just as Judge Carter prepared to call a recess, the courtroom doors burst open with a thunderous crash. Gasps erupted as Titan, his shoulder bandaged but his stride unbroken, charged down the aisle, a shredded leash trailing behind him. A flustered veterinary tech stumbled in after him, shouting, "He broke out! I couldn't stop him!" The massive German shepherd made a beeline for Lily, ignoring the bailiff's raised hand, and pressed his muzzle against her knee. She reached down, her trembling fingers sinking into his fur, and for a moment the room held its breath. Then chaos erupted again. Henry Harper slumped in his seat, his face ashen, a choked groan escaping his lips. "Titan knows!" Clara cried, her voice cracking as she grabbed her husband's arm. The dog let out a piercing howl, a sound so raw it sent shivers through the gallery. Dr. Brooks leapt up, pushing past the bailiff. "He's alertin'. Henry's having a heart attack." Paramedics rushed in, confirming an irregular pulse as they strapped Henry to a stretcher. Titan paced beside him, whining, until Lily whispered, "Stay," and he sat, his dark eyes locked on her grandfather. "That dog just saved his life," one paramedic muttered, shaking his head in disbelief as they wheeled Henry out, Clara following with tears streaming down her face. Judge Carter, regaining control, fixed her gaze on Lily. "I'd like to hear from you, if you're willing," she said gently. "No one will force you." The room fell silent, every eye on the girl who hadn't spoken publicly since that desperate stop months ago. Lily's hands tightened on the table, her knuckles white, and then, slowly, she stood. Titan rose with her, a silent sentinel at her side. She lifted her head, her hazel eyes meeting the judge's, and her voice emerged, soft and halting but resolute. "Titan saved me from the fire," she began, each word a struggle. "When the car crashed, Mom and Dad died. He pulled me out before it burned." A collective gasp rippled through the courtroom. Henry and Clara had never known Lily was in the car. They'd assumed she'd been with a sitter, found unharmed at the scene. She swallowed hard, her voice growing steadier. "They all saved me every night from the dreams. And they smelled him. On the arrow. The man who killed my parents." The gallery erupted in murmurs, but Lily pressed on, tears glistening in her eyes. "Please don't take them. They're all I have left of Mom and Dad." Grace Mitchell's rigid posture faltered, her hands dropping to her lap as Lily's words hung in the air. Judge Carter leaned forward, her expression softening, but before she could speak, Grace rose unsteadily. "Your Honor," she said, her voice trembling for the first time, I need to say something." Her attorney tugged at her sleeve, hissing, "Grace, sit down," but she shook him off. "I drove the truck that night," she confessed, tears spilling down her lined cheeks. "It was raining. I was distracted, arguing with my husband. I didn't see the light. I killed Jack and Nora." The courtroom exploded. Shouts, sobs, the bang of the gavel as Judge Carter demanded order. Grace pressed on, her voice breaking. "When I saw Lily with those dogs, I panicked. They recognized me, growled every time she passed my house. I thought if they were gone, my guilt would be too. I hired a hunter to shoot Titan to silence him, but he aimed at Lily by mistake. I didn't want her dead. I just wanted it to stop." She collapsed into her chair, sobbing, as her attorney buried his face in his hands. Judge Carter's ruling came swiftly, her voice firm but measured. "The dogs stay with Lily, under strict supervision," she declared. "Titan's actions today, and Lily's testimony, prove their bond is vital to her well-being. But Grace Mitchell, your actions will face separate consequences." As the gavel fell, Lily sank into her seat, Titan pressing close, a quiet sob escaping her lips. "That wasn't the end," the narrator intoned, voice low and gripping. "A truth exploded, but a shadow lingers. What's next for Lily? Like if you're stunned, and comment, 'Should Grace be forgiven?' What's that hunter's next move? The final chapter's coming." The sun rose over Hyannis on a crisp July morning in 2025, casting golden light across Pine Street and bathing the Harper house in a glow that felt like renewal. The courtroom battle had left scars, but it also sparked a transformation. Lily Harper, once the silent enigma at the heart of the town's storm, emerged from the shadows with a quiet strength that surprised even those who doubted her most. Her 6 German shepherds, Titan, Luna, Rex, Shadow, Bella, and Duke, remained by her side. Their presence a testament to Judge Helen Carter's ruling. They were family, not threats, bound to Lily by a bond too deep to sever. Yet the echoes of that explosive hearing lingered, weaving a tapestry of redemption, danger, and unanswered questions that would define Hyannis for years to come. Lily's recovery began in the weeks after the trial, her morning walks resuming with a newfound confidence. Titan, his shoulder healed but marked by a faint scar, led the pack with the same unwavering loyalty that had saved her from fire and arrow alike. Shopkeepers along Main Street, once wary, now greeted her with nods and smiles, some leaving treats for the dogs or small cups of hot chocolate for Lily, though Clara usually collected them later, explaining with a shy grin, "She doesn't take things from strangers yet." The town's division softened, replaced by a cautious unity. Joe Carter, the gruff restaurant owner, hung a sign in his grill's window, "We stand with Lily and her pack." Even tourists, drawn by the viral saga, began to see her not as a spectacle, but as a symbol of resilience. Grace Mitchell's confession had shattered her carefully crafted image, sending shockwaves through Hyannis. The retired principal retreated from public life, selling her Victorian home on Elm Street and moving into a modest apartment near the community center. She declined every interview request, her once commanding voice silenced by guilt. But in a move no one expected, Grace approached Clara one quiet afternoon, her arms still in a cast from a fall during the chaos of her own making. "I've set up a trust fund," she said, her eyes downcast, "for Lily's education, her future, and the dog's care. It's the least I can do." Henry and Clara hesitated, the money feeling like a bitter echo of their son's death, but they accepted when Grace insisted it honor Jack and Nora's legacy. "It's not forgiveness," Clara told Henry later, her voice firm. "It's for Lily." The most profound change came from within Lily herself. Dr. Nathan Brooks, the veterinarian who championed her dogs, began visiting the Harper home weekly, armed with research on animal-assisted therapy. He saw Lily not just as a survivor, but as a collaborator, her unique bond with the pack a key to unlocking her voice. One evening, as rain pattered against the windows, he sat with her on the living room floor, Titan sprawled beside her. "You've built something incredible with them," he said softly, pushing his glasses up his nose. "Want to tell me how?" Lily hesitated, then reached for a notebook, scribbling, "They hear Mom and Dad in my hands." It was a poetic glimpse into her world, a belief that her parents lived on through the signals she'd learned from their journals. That belief bore fruit in a moment that broke Hyannis's heart and mended it all at once. One stormy night, desperate to see Titan after his quarantine for the arrow wound, Lily slipped out of the house, her small figure vanishing into the downpour. She reached the animal control facility, soaked and shivering, and tried to pry open his kennel with trembling hands. Exhaustion overtook her and she collapsed in the mud, rain pooling around her as she whispered, "I'm sorry." Titan, sensing her distress through the bars, let out a howl that pierced the night, a call so desperate it woke the facility's night guard. The man found Lily unconscious. Titan's paws pressed against the cage and called for help. Paramedics revived her, and when Clara arrived, tears streaming, Lily murmured, "He saved me again." Joe Carter's security footage later revealed another layer. Months earlier, Titan had leapt into a drained pond at the public garden to pull Lily from drowning after she'd slipped chasing a lost toy. "That dog's her guardian angel," Joe said, showing the clip to anyone who'd listen. The story spread, softening even Grace's staunchest allies. At a town ceremony in August, Mayor Lisa Donovan declared Canine Companionship Day, unveiling a plaque in the garden to honor Lily and Titan. Standing beside it, Lily spoke to the crowd, her voice clear despite its softness. "Dogs don't leave you even when people do. I forgave Mrs. Grace because Titan taught me to protect, not hate." The applause was thunderous, Clara wiping tears as she hugged her granddaughter tight. But Hyannis's peace was fragile. Days after the ceremony, a package arrived at the Harper doorstep. A hunting arrow identical to the one that struck Titan, its green fletching pristine. Tucked inside was a note in jagged scrawl, "Next time, I won't miss." Henry called Officer Connolly, his hand shaking as he handed over the evidence. "Someone's still out there," he said, his voice hoarse. Connolly's investigation traced the arrow to a local sporting goods store, but the buyer had paid cash, leaving no trail. Theories swirled. Was it the hunter Grace hired, seeking revenge? A copycat stirred by the media storm? Or someone tied to the crash, desperate to silence a secret the dogs might know? Lily, now 7, faced her first day of school that fall with Titan by her side, his service vest a legal shield won through Brooks's advocacy. She clutched his fur as classmates asked questions, her answers short but steady. "He helps me breathe when I'm scared." Her progress, speaking more, writing in class, awed her teachers, but the arrow's shadow loomed. Grace, volunteering at the community center, began counseling sessions, her redemption a quiet penance. Yet when Henry asked if she knew the hunter's identity, her silence spoke volumes. "This isn't over," the narrator's voice cut in, rich with intrigue. "Lily's found her voice, but a threat lingers. Who sent that arrow? Like if this moved you to tears, and comment, should Grace face jail or is her guilt enough? Who's hunting Lily and why? Subscribe for what's next, because this town's secrets aren't done unraveling.